Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I want to speak about union, and this form of union that I'm going to speak about today is not the physical union of you and your twin flame, neither is it the spiritual union that you experience of both the energies within you, but it is more in the lines of unification. So, what do I mean by this? So, all your life, there have been parts of you that have become separate from you. As a child, when you are born, you are a complete, you know, energy ball wherein you're not rejecting any part of you. If you've seen a baby accepts everything about itself, whether it's not embarrassed, for its bodily functions, for instance. It doesn't have any concept of its feet being less valuable than its head, or it doesn't have any shame about let us say wetting the bed or dirtying the diapers, or calling for the needs that it has, whether through crying or just simply asking for it when the child grows up and all of that. So it's a completeness in the sense that there is nothing that the baby has decided is wrong or right, and it just flows with what it basically needs. The problem comes in because of the experiences that this very young child has. So it can be, that the child has a certain father or mother, or a certain cultural sort of an upbringing, a cultural atmosphere around, herself or himself, wherein, this child can be conditioned to think that some things are good and some things are bad. Maybe the child has some trauma, which comes in from the mother or the father. And where is this trauma of the mother or the father coming from? It is the trauma that they grew up with. So maybe the mother did not have a good childhood herself, or she learned certain behaviors from her father. And it can be that, the mother's father also learned these behaviors, possibly maybe from his mother or his father. All right. And you can keep going far back in time, and you can see that this intergenerational trauma, which passes on from one unconscious life to the other unconscious, human life, it can deeply impact the way the child is raised. So the mother will maybe condition the child to think that some things are good and some things are bad. Okay. Maybe, for instance, many people suffer from expressing their true sexual selves. Many people have a lot of qualms about being okay with their sexuality, being okay with their bodies. And that can come in, from childhood. It can be that the baby maybe ate a lot of food, or was a healthy baby, as they call it. So, and it can be that, the parents started to shame the baby for being too fat at the age of 3 or 4. Maybe they said, don't eat so much, you will become very fat, or look at other children. And this could have been done very unconsciously. So the child will then grow up to not like, her or his body. All right, the child will think something is wrong. There are so many people that you will meet who have always been on some form of a diet. They've always thought that they don't have a good relationship with food, because something again that you inherit from your parents, and the dialogues and the conversations around food are like that this is healthy, that is not healthy, or this is good for you, that is not good for you. It can be such an unconscious way in which many adults behave, wherein they classify like some things as just outrightly bad, or like just some things that you just absolutely should not eat, but they don't go into a balanced way of looking at food, which is with the idea of looking at moderation. Or maybe when the child is growing up, because of the overweight, the maybe the child was overweight or something, and was put on diets, and maybe many times the child was starved. So instead of the parent being nutritionally aware, maybe instead the parent thought that you eat less of what you're eating, you do portion control, but the child felt hungry, right? So that could have led to more overeating or something like that. So these are just some examples that are coming to my mind right now. But there can be other many other ways. Maybe the child was exposed to a lot of violence. Maybe mother and father did not get along, right? And the child probably felt responsible for that, or felt that she needed to take the responsibility to dry the tears of the mother, or dry the tears of the father, or calm the father down, or the mother tried to maybe, this is also something that I have noticed many a times in many families, that if a mother has a problem with the father, the mother can badmouth the father to the child and say, your father is always like this, your father drinks a lot, or does this or does that. And that is too much for the child to bear at that age, when the child does not have the emotional wherewithal to deal with all of this. So the child can grow up feeling like he has to be responsible for everything that happens, for other people's emotions, right? And that is such a crippling feeling overall, because this is not something that the child ever learns unless he does a lot of conscious work, to release. And the child then can sometimes even grow up to be a so-called empath. Now, this is very interesting. I was listening to one of the Teal, Swan's videos. This was many months ago, and she spoke of this empath bit and who is really an empath. And she said that, essentially because you grew up in a household where violence could happen anytime, or where your father or your mother could flip a switch, so to speak. Maybe they were borderline, maybe they got angry unannounced. You could never tell anything could go wrong in your household. So you learn to sense danger all the time. So you learn to always sense that something can go wrong. And now you grow up to be a so-called empath, is, her take on it. And, she said that now that means that, you are sitting in a room, and maybe you're in a party, but let's say there are 20 people in this small gathering, and your focus as an empath will always be on the one or two people who are the downers of the party. So you will not have fun, but there'll be other people who will have a great time, and who will not even notice the two sad, angry, or bitter people. But the empath will always tune into the energy of the bitter people, because the empath is conditioned to always look at the danger, to sense the danger in every situation. So, as a child, it was a defense mechanism. But when you grew up, now you can't even enjoy normal gatherings, because you always, as an empath, whoever is an empath, can tune into the negative one or two people, in a gathering of a few people, instead of looking at just the positive vibe or something, right? And you may try to, maybe the empath will try to go and, do some people pleasing or something like that. So I know that this can sound very harsh to all of us, who especially do relate to ourselves as empath. But as you are on a spiritual awakening journey, you should never chase labels. So it's okay if you are offended, or you're sad that empath is basically just a defense mechanism. That's an opinion, obviously, that Teal Swan gave. And I really resonated with it, because I used to call myself an empath, or at least relate to that term empath, and all the videos and the articles about empaths and narcissists and how they sort of gel and all of that used to relate to me for such a long time. So when I heard this, it really hit me, because this was how I used to be. That in a party, if there are one or two people who are negative, yes, my focus used to go only on those people. And my experience would be of the same vibrational level of the bitter people, rather than the happy people. This is just how I was. I never realized it. So I found this to be very insightful. Maybe some of you listening will also find this to be insightful. So essentially, if you do look at this, if you go even deeper, and then you even see that as a child, it was not really nice or sweet or pleasant, for the child to be in that situation where the child had to constantly sense out danger in family situations all the time, and then tune into that what is going to happen, whether my father's switch is going to flip, and all of that, and then constantly try to then develop a defense mechanism around it, whether it was of people pleasing, or it was of fighting, or it was of flying away, like I mean flight, which is running away from the situation, or it was to sort of maybe just freeze, like numb out, not even know what to do, get very, very afraid and completely numb out, or just tune yourself out to what was happening. So essentially, when the child was going through all of this, there is a part of how the child was really feeling at that time. The child needed that security, the child needed that safety, that consistency, and all of that. But the child did not receive any of it, right? So, because it did not receive any of these things, it developed these defense mechanisms. And now, those parts, of you, of the adult you, where you really needed love, where you needed safety and support, are somewhere disconnected from you. Somewhere, those parts are still hidden, and your defense mechanisms are still active, and you're still operating from those defense mechanisms as an adult being. So, the unification of, your self that I'm speaking of today is unifying and bringing back those parts of you that were rejected, and bringing back those parts of you that suffered, that just were honest and earnest in their needs, in their requirements, in how they felt, in, just how they experienced life, in the true desires of those parts of you. So, all of those parts that are laying buried under very, very heavy layers of defense mechanisms, coupled with the heavy conditioning of life, and all the experiences that you attracted because of this defense mechanism based way of interacting with the world, the universe obviously wanted you to release this defense mechanism. So a lot of your experiences will be similar to what you experienced as a childhood, so that at some point of time you can recognize the main problem, you can go back to the core, and you can release the problem at the core, right? So underneath all of this is where that part of you still lies, that is upset, that is sad, or that just has very pure desires under even this emotion of sadness and upset and all of that, right? That is the part of you that you have to reintegrate and bring back to yourself, to unify yourself completely. So this is, the shadow side that you're working with. This is what Carl Jung really spoke of. He said that you have to make, your unconscious conscious. You have to throw light in those dark places in your mind. And this is exactly what you will see your twin flame really brings to you on this journey. So what happens is that you could, be with a soulmate person, and your soulmate, like as I've already spoken of this before in one of the podcast videos as well, I did mention this, that a soulmate essentially, in my understanding, and of course there are different experiences people have, right? But largely soulmates are people who do not, they are not that invested in your growth by giving you a lot of triggers. The soulmate is somebody who accepts, your toxicity, you can say, or somebody who accepts, or can work around the way you are. So for instance, the soulmate relationships that I have had in my life, especially in my late teens and my early 20s and such, the soulmate relationships were the relationships where a lot of growth could happen for me, where I could aim really high and I could do really nice things, because the soulmates reinforce what is good in you. But at the same time, so that growth is essentially about what is good in you will grow. But the soulmate relationship will not necessarily throw light in on what is really bad in you. So what really needs, what is your resistance, what holds you back, the pains that you have, or the trauma that you're carrying. The soulmate relationship will not throw light on that, but the soulmate relationship will accentuate the good in you. All right. A karmic relationship is the exact opposite. A karmic relationship tends to only and only throw light on the what is bad in you. What is just, it's just going to trigger you, your shadow side will just be always on fire. You will not understand as to why you resist this person, and yet there will be so much attraction and everything, not necessarily to the person, but just to the situation, to the abusive or the toxic situation. You'll just be so used to that and all of that. And nothing good will come out of it. It's not that, the good side that you have, the potential that you carry, whether uh, your career potential or your personal potential or something like that, is something that the karmic will ever allow to flourish in your life. The karmic will thwart it or will slow you down. But the bad things will definitely be highlighted. And you learn, obviously, from, you know, the powerlessness that the karmic situations highlight for you. You learn where all you've been giving your power away. And mostly when you emerge out of a karmic situation, you are in a state of great self empowerment, although it's not very complete. Now, a twin flame relationship, is a completely different thing. In a twin flame relationship, you can never settle into either a very karmic pattern, because the person also brings up what is best in you. The good things that you have been suppressing all your life, your spiritual gifts, your natural tendencies, things that make you weird, like, meeting your twin flame can sometimes just feel like, god, this person is the same kind of weird as me, and probably more weird than I have been, in a nice way. So things that other people will call silly, or will reject in you, your twin flame will love those things in you, because those things make you. But at the same time, because it is your perfect divine mirror, they are going to also highlight all the painful things that you have repressed. So it can be very, very triggering to be with a twin flame, because it's so scary. Now suddenly you're there and you feel inadequate, you feel, I'm not good enough for this person. With a soulmate, you never felt you were not good enough. You would have doubted the soulmate not being as good as you. You would have thought you're the prettiest woman that ever walked on the face of the earth with a soulmate, right? You'd have had a different stride altogether, to your walk, and you'd have just been like, yeah, I'm so beautiful, I'm so attractive, gosh, look at me. With a twin flame, you're suddenly like, god, look at me, I'm not as half as good looking as my twin. My twin is just amazing, he's dynamic, he's charming, he's intelligent, he's got everything going for him. I'm not a scratch on how he is. This exactly was something that you always had within you. This feeling of inadequacy, that the soulmate was not able to highlight in you, was something that the twin is now really, really good at bringing up for you. So you feel inadequate and you feel less, because somewhere in your childhood, there is a belief system, there is that feeling that you're not good enough, right? Which laid buried under all that defense mechanism that I spoke of in the first half of this podcast, right? So where all you created boundaries, you created a certain trauma responses, led to defense mechanisms, led you to sort of never be in touch with how you were truly feeling and all of that, right? So underneath all of this, this feeling of inadequacy was there, but your twin is now here. So your twin is going to reflect this back to you, and this is why you feel like you're on fire and all your fears are coming up. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. Oh, my body is like this or like that, right? Again, just hark back to what I spoke of as a child. You could have, been body shamed by your own parents, or your cultural conditioning could have been such that, maybe you were not fitting into the norms of being the most perfect looking girl or the most perfect looking boy. And, you had to really struggle with it. Maybe you were not as, you felt you're not as pretty as your best friends, who attended your school or something like that, and maybe they were the ones who were called more cute and more pretty, and you got very offended and you thought, oh, nobody calls me all of this, people think I'm a weirdo, I look like this, I don't look that good. The most simple things, that created those beliefs, that created those sort of defense mechanism, if there was any pain there, the mechanism so that you could not feel the pain, all the fears, because you felt that you would be rejected, if you don't behave in a certain way, which is a completely different thing that I'm speaking of. But the fears also basically come like this because of the rejection that you feel, so you start conforming to society and your parents and everything. Now you're afraid that if you just be yourself, you will be rejected. So all the fears of that, fears of not being good enough and all of that. So underneath all of this, where this whole thing lays buried, your twin is right here to now mirror this back to you and to trigger this in you. So you will now think that it's better I just go with a soulmate, it's better I just find someone who values me for me. But the point is that, again, go back to how the soulmate will be. Your good will probably grow, but your bad will just remain bad. Your bad will not find an outlet, right? To be released and to sort of, for you to have that unification experience. So a twin flame connection is a holistic connection. It's a connection where you will have, that triggering that you've had with a so-called karmic person, wherein all your bad sides are coming up. But this is with a twin flame, it's not done in a malicious way, Mostly it is not going to be that your twin will be malicious, towards you, but the twin can behave in certain ways which can trigger you. The twin can go ahead and, be with a karmic person or something like that, which will trigger you, and your insecurities will come up that I'm not good looking enough, I'm not pretty enough, my body is just like I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, and I'm not very attractive, my feet are like this, and my hands are like that, and oh god, my nose. All of those silly things, they aren't really silly actually. They have been there in your mind as the beliefs that you carry about your body, as the beliefs you carry about yourself, about your potential, about who you are. You could have built a lot of outward identities, to feel better about yourself. You could have thought, oh, my sense of identity only and only comes from how people look at me. So you could have been an overachiever all your life. You could have been topping your school and your college, and then gotten like a really nice job, and you could be in a really well paying job. You could have a social status, to and maybe, I don't know, 100,000 followers on Instagram, whatever it is, that you really connect with. You could have thought that this is who I am. Now, all of this your twin will trigger in you, because that soul right there, which is you in another body, wants you to go deeper and think, aren't you perfect the way you are, without all of these embellishments, that you are identifying with? You are the divine yourself, right? Just today, I came across this beautiful, um, you know, chant. So those of you, from India will relate. So this is called Shiva Shadakshara Stotram. And I'd been listening to this for many years, but just today, I looked it up for some reason that I came across it, on Facebook. And the very first line of, this stotram, which is basically, like a Sanskrit chant, the first line is Om Karam Bindu Samyuktam, which means that, the symbol of Om that I'm sure all of you have seen, and you've seen there is a dot on the Om. Those of you who again are from India will know this dot, and you will know what I mean. Otherwise, you can look up, the symbol of Om. So this dot basically signifies that as individual souls, we are that individual dot who has emerged from the whole Omkar, who has emerged from the God consciousness, that one supreme consciousness, which is represented by Omkar, the symbol, the rest of the symbol of Om. This was so beautiful, and it really, really hit me that this is really what it is, that we've basically just come from that supreme consciousness. We are just one of the many billions or trillions of dots, of that supreme consciousness. And we are perfect the way we are. This physical identity that, we have tried to invest so much into, and we've tried to build so much from this physical identity. We've overconnected to who, to all of these accumulations, whether of the body, of the mind. You see people going absolutely insane about how they look. They want to change everything about themselves. People are undergoing so much plastic surgery and all of that to change their nose, their eye color, and then the color of the hair, and the cheekbones and the chin, and their entire body, just simply because they cannot accept who they are. And the world also reinforces that if you don't look this way, then you're not good enough. If you don't look like Kim Kardashian, you're just not pretty enough. And so many times I've seen a lot of people today, like women, will just, they've all started looking like Kim Kardashian. They all have done something insane to their eyebrows, for instance. I don't know, like shaved them off, or and started to sketch them, or like there is a standard eyebrow, that now you need to have. You can't have normal looking eyebrows anymore in the makeup world. You can't have normal looking hair anymore, which has some frizz here and there, which is wavy or something. It has to always be done in a certain way. You can't have normal, you can't be without makeup anymore, right? But this is, the divine purity. Purity does not mean that I'm saying all of these things are wrong. I'm just saying that you don't need any embellishment. You're beautiful as you are. You are the most beautiful as you are, as divine created you, simply and simply because you are a spitting image of the divine, right? You come from that supreme consciousness, and this body is just an accumulation that you have from the earth. So I know that this can be triggering for many people listening in, and many will say, no, no, it's not like this, it's not like that. It's perfectly okay. But if there are any insecurities you have about your face or your body or about how you look, and I have also been there, and so many times we all struggle with all of these insecurities. This is just a message to tell you that you don't have to be insecure. You're perfect the way you are. And when you go deeper into self love and self care, you will do what is best for your body. You will start to, have your own routine of maybe yoga, exercise, of eating the healthiest of foods that are available. You will automatically shift there. The more you will work, the more ascension will happen to you, the more you will reach your ideal weight goal as well. The more you will see that the shine that your body has will come from within you. Like your face will glow because of the inner shine that you have in you. The twin flame journey is so beautiful. There is so much age regression that happens. You start to look younger. You start to look very beautiful. You reach your ideal weight, which is good for you. All the health problems that you've been struggling with, they come down, they diminish, or they completely disappear as you ascend faster and faster. And you will make automatic choices for your food. You will want to eat simple, you will want to eat healthy, maybe so very simple food, very high pranic food, and all of that. And you can see the shift that it brings in your body, because after all, you are putting all of these things inside your body. This is directly how your energy is getting impacted, whether it is through smoking, whether it is through drinking, or it is through eating heavy foods, or foods which are not very good for the pranic value of the food is very low or dense, and it will impact and it will lower your energy as well in some ways. So you will see that the shift is automatically going to happen. So you never have to reject yourself. Your twin is going to mirror a lot of things back to you, but the higher purpose of that mirroring always is so that you can unify these parts of you that you have rejected. So if you think that you're not good looking enough and all of that, with a soulmate you feel very beautiful. With a twin flame, because of the twin flame's behavior and all of that, you will feel that you're not good enough, so they're triggering this in you. So then you are forced to go deep within and look at the source of where this belief has come from, and then reintegrate that lost part of you, that disconnected part of you, which believes that your body is not good, or you're not good, or you're not worthy, and all of that, and bring it back into yourself. You give it some peace so that that part of you settles, and your twin will stop triggering you here. And remember that a large part of this healing and a large part of this purging, the purging of these negative beliefs, the purging of these resistances, will be directed by your higher self. Your higher self will know when you are ready for what. Your higher self will know that, okay, today you are ready to release that abandonment wound. You know what? Right now is not the time for you to work on that wound that you have from about people pleasing, but a time will come where it will be highlighted to you. You will recognize it, and you will have sources of information accessible to you, because you're ready right now to leave that wound of people pleasing behind you. All right, maybe right now you're not ready to forgive, you're not ready to forgive all of these people, because you're just in a state of imbalance, or somewhere you are still in that energy of blaming other people. But a time will come where you will claim responsibility for everything, when higher and mature spiritual wisdom will come in your life, and you will emanate love, and you will be able to forgive. Forgiveness will not be something that you will struggle with. It will just be very natural for you to be loving towards one and all, right? But there is a time for everything, and the time is definitely something that your higher self will know. You have to somewhere surrender this journey to your higher self. And yet at the same time, if you do think that something is coming up for you to be healed, then do set an intention and ask your higher self to assist you. Ask your spirit guides, ask your guru, ask any divine form that please help me. I know I have this problem right now. I abandon myself. There is wounding there with regards to trusting. There is wounding there with regards to low self-esteem, my opinion of my body, of my sexuality, my sexual expression, of who I am. There is a block with regards to how I feel about money. There is a block with regards to how I feel about influencing other people. There is a block in my heart. I can't really love. I'm so afraid. Or I'm just so constricted in my heart chakra because of all the resentment I carry. Can you help me here? Maybe you can really ask for help and assistance, and see that at the right time that help will come. Keep working and keep meeting the universe. This has been my experience, that yes, your higher self is the one that is going to do all the healing. You have nothing to do with it. But being in conscious awareness implies that you're also consciously aware of what you're experiencing within you. And that then becomes extraordinarily important for you to assist that healing, to do it in a faster way, to do it in a way where your conscious awareness of that particular thing, the pain point, is assisting you to release it with, of course, the support from your higher self. All right. So this is the journey of that unification of the lost parts of you, the parts of you that you rejected, that society rejected, your family rejected, and hence you rejected, in response to that external rejection. It's that wholeness that you come to within yourself, the wholeness of your being, of who you are, whoever that is, a very unique individual with a very unique soul fragrance, and of course, an image of the divine itself. You carry the divine within you as well. You are that bindu, that dot, from of the supreme consciousness. You come from that supreme consciousness. All right. Within you, you are whole. You are the universe yourself. So always love yourself and value yourself. And these are some of the ways in which your twin flame is urging you to love yourself, and urging you to value yourself, and urging you to unify within yourself. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I know this has become very long, and this had a lot of different digressions and, different things that I spoke of. But I hope that, all those things also resonated with some of you, and sending you lots of love. Have a beautiful, wonderful day. Take care.